I want to be successful. Joshua chapter 1 encourages me to have great success. God said to Joshua to be strong and courageous 4 times. Then he said, if you don't depart from the book of the law, you'll have great success wherever you go. Success is a conundrum. Success is like the Rubik's Cube, that you can have all the colors straight on one side, but everything else can be a mess. A lot of us think that success is what happens to us. But you know, a lot of rich people within themselves are incredibly unsuccessful, and yet they own the cattle on 1,000 hills. You can have and own 5 high-rise apartments in New York and yet be racked by the spirit of paranoia and not enjoy anything you own for 1 minute. In summary, you're unsuccessful. You can own 10 condominiums in Florida, at the coast of Florida, and yet be racked by the spirit of lust. You can say goodbye to your family and say goodbye to your friends and live an isolated, lonely life, and in summary, you're not successful. Success comes in 3 parts. It's not just in what happens to you, it's in who you are and what you do. Who you are, what you do, and what does you. And I want to say to every one of you that real success comes out from who you are and what you do. That's 90% of it. The other 10% in what happens around about you is influenced by who you are and what you do. Proverbs chapter 4 verse 23 says to guard your heart with all diligence, for out of your heart flows the wellspring of life. In other words, what comes out from your life is what's in your life. I want you to be improved, and I want to be improved by how I think and what I do. How I think and what I do to change the world around me. I want great success. Henry Ford said, if you think you can do a thing, or if you think you can't do a thing, you're right. I kind of like that. If you think you can, then you probably can. Not necessarily, but probably. But if you think you can't, you absolutely can't. Your mind is the seat of power between the inside of you and the outside of you. Your mind is the link, it's the connector, it's the filter between what happens in the seat of your heart and what happens in the outside world. Norman Vincent Peale, a great inspirational speaker, once said, you're not who you think you are, what you think you are. A great American poet said that you are what you think about every minute of every day. A young male student heard that and he said, well, that makes me a woman, because he keeps thinking about women all the time. Your mind is the seat of power. And in order to have great success in life, you need a change of mind. You ready? You ready? Romans chapter 8 verse number 5 says that those who live according to their sinful nature have set their minds on the sinful nature. But those who live according to the Spirit have set their minds on what the Spirit desires. You know, in other words, the connector between what you do, what you live, and who you are is the mind. What you set the mind on, your mindset. Your mind is the filter between the inner world and the outer world. If you set your mind on the sinful nature, then you'll live according to that. If you set your mind on the Spirit of God and what it desires, then you'll live according to it. Your mind is everything. The way you think is everything. And we need a change of mind. We need to, just like we make a bed, we need to make up our mind. Romans chapter 12 verse number 2 says, be transformed by the renewing of your mind, and then you'll be able to test and approve what God's good, perfect, and pleasing will is. Be changed, not just by willpower, but by a change of mind, and then you'll be able to test drive God's good, perfect, and pleasing will. It's the Maserati of the will of God. I want to test drive God's Maserati, His perfect will, His pleasing will, His good will. And it comes about not just by the spirit of faith that lives here, it comes about by a renewing of the mind that transforms me from the inside out. When I'm transformed through the renewing of the mind, then I'll be able to test drive God's good, perfect, and pleasing will. Yippee! Ephesians says to be renewed in the attitude of your mind. Attitude's a great word. The word attitude has attitude to it. Attitude is the leanings of the mind, the sloping of the mind. You know, a bowling ball's got attitude, that when you throw a bowling ball, it's got a bias in it. It never goes straight. It's the same with your mind. It's got an attitude to it. It's leaning. It's got a leaning to it. It doesn't work according to isolated thoughts. It works according to habits. It works according to cities of habit. It works according to trains of thought. And if you want your mind changed, you've got to change the cities of habit, and you've got to have brand new trains of thought. The trains of thought within your mind run along 4 different tracks. There's the track of imagination, there's the track of emotion, there's the track of reason, and there's the track of leanings. Your imagination will take you to the cities of habit. Your emotional dispositions will take you to brand new cities of habit. Your leanings and your reasoning are all the tracks that take trains of thought to create and strengthen cities of habit. We need to do something in your mind so that instead of following along predetermined tracks of imagination and emotion, that we can move that train along tracks of faith and obedience to create brand new strongholds within the mind, in order that you and I could experience God's good, perfect, and pleasing will. You know, inside everyone's mind is a train station right in the middle. It's called Grand Central Station, and it's the station of decision. It's the station of intent. It's the station of will. And trains are rocking up all the time, trains of thought. But arriving at that station by taxi or limousine are individual thoughts and new ideas, and just stuff arrives at that station. And it stands at the platform ready to travel on a train of thought leading to a city of habit. Remember, we're trying to change the habits of our mind. We're trying to renew our mind. And what happens at that station determines every bit of the future of your life.